When Petersham Bowling Club in Sydney got rid of the pokies, the board made a bold move. After all, for a small club, pokies delivered a profit and it was money crucial for the club's survival. But what happened next? Well, you'll have to hear it for yourself. Joining us now is the club's president, George Catsey. He blew up the pokies and has never looked back. Morning, George. How are you doing?
Good morning. Nice to be here. Welcome, New Zealand. No, thank you for having me.
No, thank you for coming on the show, especially at this time of the morning. We really appreciate it, George.
That's all right, yeah.
Can you start by explaining to me what your club's history with pokies was?
Well, pokies were part of the club, which is really since the 1950s, 1960s, when the pokies actually were introduced into sort of New South Wales as part of a strategy to save the clubs. And they were sort of a part of it right up till the early 2000s when they were no longer making enough money for the club to survive, basically, because changing demographics, things change.
Yeah.
And the area had changed. People weren't bowling as much, and they didn't know how to transition away from them. They didn't know how to engage with the new community that had really moved into the area and how to revitalise the club. So even though they had them, they ceased to be profitable for them because they relied so heavily on them. So it became a problem for them because they didn't have any other skills in sense of building a new market and bringing people in.
And so how long were you having conversations about whether or not you got rid of the pokies? I'm assuming it wasn't an overnight decision. It must have been a big conversation for the club.
Well, it was a big. So look, in a sense, there was a tussle before because the club, they had poker machines, and as I said, they were struggling a bit with building their business from that. They weren't saving them. So they wanted to develop part of the site. So as they tried to make money elsewhere, because they had the pokies, but they needed to try and funnel people through. We're the local community, so we kind of resisted this development and everything that was going on at the club, and we took it over and decided to take it in a new direction. So within 6 months of the local community taking over this club, who were wanting to develop as a form of sort of income, we made that decision very quickly that the way to build this business, because the club was looking for money, they thought development and pokies were the way to go. And we as a community went, actually, no, the open space in this community asset is the way to go, and actually engagement is the way to go. So within 6 months of us sort of taking over, we made that decision very clearly that the way to build the business was not through what I call exploitation, which is basically funneling people through poker machines to get income. We actually went down the engagement model and the innovation model. We had to innovate the business and change. And it really refocuses where you sit in the community because you're no longer relying on people running through poker machines to get income. So it was a real change for us. It was a big mindset.
Massive. And I'm assuming that the harder route, I'm assuming actually just putting pokies in would have been the easy option here, George.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. So when we first took over, we sort of went to the local body, Clubs New South Wales, to say, look, we're community. We want to revitalise this club. We want to sort of increase the income. What do you suggest? I mean, their suggestion was to borrow money to upgrade our poker machines because they felt that they were a little bit out of touch. They were out of date and no one wanted to play them, and which was 20,000, which is a lot for a small club. And then they said, you need to funnel people into the machines to subsidise food and drink off the profit. And we went, wow, that is the model, isn't it? You actually have to have people play these machines to get the income so that you can subsidise everything else in your business. And we went, hang on a sec, this is. It's sort of a corrupted model, I think. So all your energy goes into this machine rather than the other side, which is building the business.
So how did you build the business then? When you made the call to get rid of pokies, what did you have to put in place to ensure that there was actually profits and revenue coming in?
Well, this is what every other business it has to do. They have to engage with the customer base. They have to think about what people want. You have to trial and error. We had to ask questions of what our community and our customers and our members wanted, and trial and error. Yeah, and build it basically.
And what did you notice? This wasn't an overnight success, but things bounced back in a massive way, George.
Yes, they did. So it was a while of this trial and error. But what we did most importantly is as soon as we stopped the poker machine, so we've been doing this for 16 years now, so it's not last week. So we made the decision and we broadcast it basically. And this is early days when Facebook, I think we were one of the first on Facebook, it was very early social media, but we sort of went out to the press and we went out and we said, hey, we are pokey free and we're making this decision. And what we found was, interesting enough, is people actually started to make a decision that rather than going to a club with poker machines, they would make the decision to come to us, and they started to support us. And we had people coming from way out of area when they heard of the decision we made. Because there are a lot of people who do not want to go to clubs with poker machines. We forget about this side of it. They don't like them. They don't want anything to do with them, or they have issues around them and they want to go to what they call a safe space, a safe club that doesn't have them. So there was an uptick, and then we had to continue to build the business,
But that uptick was considerable in terms of the profits that you made.
Yeah, ticked upwards. We tracked upwards. So, and then we built other things. We brought music in. We tried different things. We saw the club as this it's not just bowls on the weekend. We thought, well, how can we use the club across all the time frames, across all the days? We brought in multiple communities. So music community, there was the bowls community, there's the young family community, and they all intersect. And our business just tracked, and it tracked up, and we clicked into profit, and our numbers speak for themselves. From when we took over, our turnover has increased. I think our last counter was about 920%.
920%.
So from the base, so remember it was a club that was struggling, which was to engage and make money. But I mean, we were open, so 920%. So we're absolutely profitable. We have reserves. We constantly have to fix the building and upgrade, but we don't spend it all at once. We do it gradually when we need it. Yeah.
So it's doable, George, because at the moment, the reason for this interview, or a large reason for it, is in Palmerston North, one of our cities here in New Zealand. They're having a big debate at the moment about whether or not to have a sinking lid policy on their pokies. That is, to not have any more pokies come in and to actually decrease the number of pokies in their city. But a lot of clubs have said we wouldn't survive without the funding we get from the pokie machines. But you're saying it is doable. What is your advice for those clubs?
My advice is that, yes, it is doable. It is a different frame of mind. You actually have to think differently. You have to disconnect from the income you get from them and go, well, how else can we bring people here? What else can we do with the club? Who else can come here? And you take on a more entrepreneurial mindset. And it's important, because you don't want to be pushing people through these machines. Like, disconnect that from your business and go, that's actually not, how do we build this other thing? Even if we transition out of these machines or cap them down, it actually forces you to engage. And I think that's a really good thing.